Our ship is currently somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, heading towards our next loading port. It will still take us over a week before arrival, which gave us some time to prepare for port state control inspections. So yesterday we finished our bunkering operations in Algeciras and eventually left the Mediterranean Sea, and now our ship is somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. It's going to take us about 9 days before we reach our loading port in Brazil, where we will be loading corn, which means the deck guys need to finish cleaning up the cargo holds. And for us in the engine, we also have quite a few maintenance tasks left that we need to get done, as well as cleaning the engine room a little bit more. So for the rest of this voyage, we will be focused on preparations. Same thing as usual. Ships are governed by a daily routine, and each department has their own duty. The bridge officers are in charge of navigation. The deck department is in charge of deck and cargo hold maintenance. The engine department is in charge of the engine room and all of the ship's machinery. And the galley department is in charge of keeping everyone well fed. Everyone has their part to play, and each and everyone contributes to the ship's primary goal of picking up and delivering cargo, which in turn contributes to keep the global trade in motion. But ships have to follow a lot of regulations if they want to remain in business. A lot of these regulations pertain to safety and pollution prevention, and the task of monitoring and enforcing these regulations fall on the port state control authorities. Every time ships come into port, there is a very high probability that they will be boarded and inspected by the port state control. These inspections can be very stringent and includes checking up on the validity of the ship's certificate, checking and function testing of the ship's emergency, safety, and life-saving equipment, checking for any damaged machinery, including the navigation, steering, propulsion, and power plant systems, and may also test the crew's emergency preparedness by conducting fire and abandoned ship drills. The port state control has the authority to give sanctions and, in extreme cases, even detain ships if they find any major violations, which is why we devote a lot of time and resources to prepare for these inspections and make sure that we get through them with as few or even no deficiencies if possible. On top of that, we still also have to do our regular maintenance and even some troubleshooting and repairs. And of course, as always, it is a good practice to keep everything clean. In my experience, during these inspections, I would say that the first impression is about 50% of the game. So as soon as the inspectors enter any area of the ship and finds everything is clean and orderly, they would have the impression that the crew knows what they are doing and would be less likely to be nitpicky or subjective about other minor things. But of course, it is still very important that the major equipment are functioning as they should. If any of those equipment has any defects or not working, particularly those that deal with emergencies and pollution prevention, it doesn't matter how clean your ship is. It's going to get detained until the equipment in question gets fixed, which, depending on the cargo operation schedule, can possibly delay the ship's departure. And each hour that the ship is delayed from leaving the port because of detention is money down the drain. The ship owners might have to pay fines, and of course, the charterers will claim off-hire for these delays. Not to mention the damage to the ship and the company's reputation, which is why these inspections are a very, very stressful time for the onboard management, especially for the captain, as he will be the one to explain to the ship managers and the ship owners. Now, I know that some of you will give a smart-ass comment like, if you really know your job, you won't be stressed with these inspections. All I can say is, if you've never been in the position of the ship's top four, which is captain, chief engineer, chief mate, and first engineer, and your ship never called on ports in corrupt countries like or ports, to name a few, all I can say is you are not qualified to have that kind of opinion. The system might seem elegant, but it is very far from perfect, and I could point out a lot of factors that are beyond the seafarer's control, particularly corruption in some notorious countries. But that's going to be a topic in a future episode. Rest assured, I will discuss that topic, but now is not yet the time. I'm still in the process of gathering evidence, not just from my own experience, but also from other seafarers on board other ships. And when that time comes, I hope some kind of action will be taken to improve the system. But until then, seafarers all over the world will just have to go through the motions and hold themselves to high standards in operating their ships. Because even though there are some bad apples among the inspectors, there are still a lot of good ones who do their jobs properly and have no other motives in mind but to make sure that any ship they inspect is seaworthy, safe, and that the captain and the crew members know how to keep it that way.